All right, welcome back to Intermediate Coding in Minecraft. This is Minecraft Education. This is your favorite coding and computer science teacher, Mr. Pitts. Glad you're here. Let's get into it and hop into lesson 2, which is all about variables. Most students, by the time you're taking this class, most students have been introduced to variables in the context of math, right? And so they're used to the idea that x is going to equal a thing and x is going to equal a value. They could be different from problem to problem, but that it does have an absolute constant value within the context of a problem. X is equal to 5, for example. So when they come to computer science and we start to talk about variables, so in the context of a video game, for example, where you might have a variable named lives, and if you lose all of your lives, the game is over. From the old arcade games, right? So you had lives was equal to 3, and then if you lost a life, you fell down a pit or a hole or something, or you got gotten by a baddie, then lives would become lives minus 1. So 3 minus 1 is 2. Absolutely right. So that number changed from 3 to 2. And then if we die again, we subtract 1 from lives. And so 2 minus 1 is 1. And then when lives gets to 0, we get a game over. And so that's a new concept for students when they get into computer science most times. And so for me, it's taken a little bit of an extra it's taken a little bit of extra work to make sure that they grasp that concept. So as a teacher, as a student, do what you have to do to sort of understand that what a variable is it's in computer science anyways, it's a placeholder for a value that's going to change, and it could change from line to line within the code depending on what's going on. So but without variables, coding would be nigh impossible. So let's hop into lesson 2. We ended up here after our lesson 1 tutorial. So again, I always recommend whenever you're done for the day, take your screenshot for your assignment and you're getting ready to move on, just save and exit immediately. That way you pick up right back in the same spot. So we're going to talk to this NPC here. Again, hop in the comments and leave a name for this NPC. It says, welcome to variables. That's not good enough. I want to hear your best name for the NPC. I'll let my students name them in class. Just make sure it's something appropriate. So the NPC says, variables are used in computer programming to store values. Think of a piece of information which is individual for each student in the class. The student name, student date of birth. That piece of information is stored as a variable about each student. In Minecraft, a variable could be something like the player's name, the number of blocks they have, the position they are in the Minecraft world, or the number of blocks high to build a wall. That's a little bit of foreshadowing, so we'll see that. We'll see that later. So lesson 2, variables. There are 4 different types of variables that we need to be aware of for this course. The first is number. The second is text. Third is Boolean. And last is position. Number variables have a numeric value. Could be the number of blocks, age, lives, etc. Text variables hold a string. Now, also it's important to note here that text variables could hold the text, the number 2, and a numeric variable could hold the number value, number 2, and those be 2 different things. Okay, so the string of text is very different from a numeric value, but it could be your name, the name of the world, name of the school. Boolean again is true or false, yes or no. Is it raining? Is it nighttime? Is the player flying? Is it a school day? Am I happy? You name it. Anything that is yes or no. Position variables, again in Minecraft. Minecraft uses an X, Y, and Z coordinate system. X is the east-west coordinate. It's the first one. Y is the up or down coordinate. It's the second one. And Z is the north-south coordinate, and it is the third one. So X, Y, and Z. A position variable is going to hold all three, X, Y, and Z numbers. All right, we're going to move on to the next NPC. Give them a name. Yeah, okay. Got your attention there. There you go. So when we use variables, we give the variable a name. It is important. I cannot express how important that the name is descriptive and meaningful. It should be something specific. If you wanted to create a variable to hold the player's age, you might name it player's age. You would not name it number of carrots. That would be confusing. So let's not do that. Always have it be descriptive, meaningful, and specific to what you're using it for. So we're going to hop into lesson 2, activity 1. I think there are 6 total for lesson 2. So let's get into it. We're going to use variables to add some modifications to the game. First, we're going to play around with the chat. It says from the player drawer, drag out our own chat command. There already is one. Okay. Change it to respond to the chat command, say hello. So we haven't done this yet. To change what string of letters the chat command responds to, just click in here and type what you want. Now, it is very important. Doesn't say it here. You need to know. You cannot put a space in that chat command. It will allow you to put a space there, but it will not work, because what happens is when we hop back out and we try to run this, we can't run say hello as a chat command, because it's going to try to run a command called say and pass it an argument of hello as an argument. So when we cannot put a space, in those names. Now, what you'll notice is that they capitalize the hello here. This is called camel case. Makes it easier for the coder to read when you have multiple words smashed together into one without any spaces. Another option here in coding would be instead of using camel case would be to put an underscore there. So it makes it easier to read. But I'm going to stick with the instructions for now. We're going to use camel case. Have it say hello. All right, so we're going to create a new text variable. To create a new text variable, very simple, we go to the variables drawer, and then we click the button that says make a variable. It says enter the name player name for the variable. So again, we're going to use camel case, player capital N name. We're going to drag out a block that says set player name to 0 and bring it into the chat command. Important note here is that most coding languages, you have to initialize the variable in the onStart portion of the program. So as soon as the program runs, you need to initialize your variables. This particular blocks code program always uses it. Even if this wasn't here, it's going to set player name to 0. It default initializes everything to the number 0, which can be problematic. But anyway, so set player name to 0. And then what we're going to do is we're going to change that, go into the advanced drawer, grabbing a text. This is the empty string or empty text block. And then we're going to drag this out and change this number variable, the 0, to a text variable by putting that quotation mark block in there. Now they want us to enter our name. I'm going to type Mr. Pitts. From the player drawer, grab a say. What this will do is this will put something in the chat. We're going to go back to the text, grab a join. What join does is it puts together this text with this text and then puts it into the say, puts it into the chat. And we can add or subtract as many blocks as we want here, but we're going to leave it at 2. Now what we're going to do is we're going to drag out the player name block and put it on top of the world. So we come here, grab our variable, put it there. And then finally add a space after the word hello. So we want to add a space after hello here so that there is a space between the hello and my player name so that it's easy to read in the chat. So essentially what's happening here is we've created a variable called player name. And when we run the chat command say hello, it takes this value, which I've put Mr. Pitts. Of course, you've put your name in there as well. So it's taken this string of characters and it's placed that string of characters into the variable player name. So anytime after this that we call the variable player name, what it really is going to substitute back out is this Mr. Pitts string. So when we say hello player name, what we're actually going to get is hello Mr. Pitts, because this variable player name is now holding this value, this string of characters for us in this variable. Okay, now we're going to run the code. So open the chat command with the letter T, and then we're going to type in our chat command, say hello. We're going to hit enter, and it says hello Mr. Pitts, which is exactly what we expected there. Now typically what I do for my students is have them take a screenshot of this screen once we've got the code correctly. You know, as an instructor, it gets to the point where you can just look at the code very easily and say, yes, this is correct and this isn't, especially by the time you've seen it 8 dozen times a day. All right, so I always have them for the activity to put this screenshot into Canvas or whatever program that you use for grading or submission. So there it is. Say hello and join that with player name. Next activity, activity 2. We've got our chat command. And then it says we need to change the chat command to respond to jump 10 blocks. Now we're going to create a new variable. Again, go back to the variables drawer, click on make a new variable, and they want us to title that new position. Now we're going to set new position to 0. Drag that out. Now, by the way, once we're working with multiple variables, we'll have to use the drop down. There won't be a set block for every variable that you have, or a change block for every variable that you have. There's only going to be one for the first one, so then you have to come back in and change the variable. All right, now we're going to go to positions, and we're going to drag. There's only one to choose from, but there really are 2 types in the game. There's this one with this little symbol in front of the zeros. Now what this little symbol means is that this number is relative to the position that we are on. So this means that it is 0 blocks away in the X direction, 0 blocks away in the Y direction, and 0 blocks away in the Z direction from where I happen to be standing as a player. Which again, if we've gone to settings and turned on, if we've turned on show coordinates in our settings, then we will see that the block that I'm standing on is 155, 57, and 107. 155, 57, 107. So this relative 0, relative 0, relative 0 actually means 155, 57, 107. Right? It's a tough concept for some folks to grasp, but this is relative. There is another one that says world and doesn't have this little this little symbol in front of it. And then you can actually put in specific coordinates for the world. But right now, this is going to set new position to whatever block I'm standing on. It's relative to where the player is. All right, so we're going to change this to 10. And what that means is that now new position is the same in the X direction that I'm standing on, the same in the Z direction that I'm standing on, but 10 blocks in the air. 10 blocks in the air. And then we're going to come back to the player drawer, grab a teleport. And then what we're going to do is we're going to drag that new position. Now, you got to be careful because you could technically, that new position will click into any oval shaped receptacle. So it could fall in there, or there. But because new position is a full new position, it's a full X, Y, and Z set of coordinates, we don't want that in one of those. There might be a case where we would use a numeric variable and just replace that, but we want it to click into the whole thing like that. Now we're going to test. Look up, make sure we have some room. Press T to open our chat. Jump 10 blocks. And hit enter. And we didn't really jump 10 blocks. We were teleported 10 blocks in the air and then fell down. But that's exactly what we expected to have happen there. So that's activity 1. Activity 2. Again, I would hop back out, grab this screenshot for the activity assignment, and throw that onto your online platform there for the grade. So once you've done activity 1 and 2, we want to go to the next thing, but we can't. So we're going to talk to this NPC again and then hit completed. Brings us to our next NPC. This one has like some science goggles or something on the head there. Maybe they're sunglasses that are just on the forehead. I don't know. But let's hop into activity 3. So it says we're going to expand on the previous code and use arguments. This is not what you do with your little brother or sister. An argument is something else. That is basically information that we're passing to the chat command. And that's how we're going to provide the value for our variables. So first we're going to add a chat command. And then we're going to give it the information for how high we want to jump. Okay. So we're going to change the chat command to jump. Though, as we said in the last one, it's not a jump, it's technically a teleport, but I'm not going to argue about it. All right, so we're going to add a teleport to. This will cause the player to teleport to where I am currently, right? Now, to add an argument to a chat command, this is very important. You'll be using this for the rest of the course. To add a variable, to add an argument to the chat command. To add an argument to the chat command, we're going to hit this plus symbol. This creates and adds the variable num1. Now, as we said before, you cannot or should not name your variables something vague and ambiguous like num1. Num1 what? Number 1. What does that mean? What does it represent? So what we're going to do is we're going to change that to the letter Y. Also still pretty vague. I would have done something like height or, something of that nature. But anyway, it's closer to something that I would use. So jump Y. So it's going to be the Y number that we're going to jump to. Now that we know that the variable is a Y. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag this and drop this in the Y position of the code. So what's going to happen next is when we go back and write in our chat command jump, we're also going to have to press the space bar and then input a number. That number will be set as the variable Y. So that would be like saying, so if we type jump 5, that would be like changing or setting Y to 5. It's the same thing. Except this way, instead of it being hard-coded into the program, it allows us the flexibility to run this program one time and then change Y just by using the chat command, just by using the chat function. So we're going to put jump, press space, and then type in a number. And that number is going to go into the variable Y. And then the variable Y is used here to teleport to that number. A couple things to be aware of. And as I say it, I know some of you will do it. So there's a couple of things to be aware of. Do not type in Y 5 million or jump 5 million because you'll spend the rest of the class period just falling. So yeah, pick a responsible number here. Again, this is class. We're learning coding. We're not playing around. If you would like to do that, go back to your flat coding world and do that sort of thing there. You can recreate this code over there and do whatever you want as far as teleport. But inside of your coding world, your lesson world, sort of keep it in bounds, if you will, and follow instructions. And that way you don't have to re-download and import the world and start fresh. Okay, so now we're going to test the code. Again, we're looking for a jump command, and then we're looking for a number after that. Now, if I type just jump and I don't give it an argument, what's going to happen? Well, two things. Number one, it's going to say in the chat, oops, expected one argument, but got 0. In other words, I was expecting more information than what I got. Secondly, it will try to run jump. However, it's going to run jump with the default value, which is 0. So basically, it teleported me to the block that I was already standing on. So now what we're going to do is let's actually give it the information that it wants. So jump, and let's do 15. So jump, a space, and then 15. By the way, if you don't put the space in there, it's going to try to run a chat command titled jump 15. And there is no such jump. There is no such chat command running. So we want to run the chat command jump and then give it the information 15. 15 will go into Y, and that will be how high we get teleported, is 15 blocks above us. There we go. We can make that jump 35. Okay. So again, this is the screenshot for that activity 3. This is extremely helpful. This is the one that's going to help you the most, I think, for the assessment at the end of the lesson. Hint, hint. Pay attention to this one. An argument with a number that gets used in the code. Did you get it? You got it? Okay, good. All right, so let's do the next activity for this person here. All right, so next up, what they're gonna basically ask us to do here is add another variable and rename it to X, and then add another variable and rename that to Z. So those are the 3 variables or the 3 numbers in our position. Now, because position is X, Y, and Z, they leave it Y, X, and Z. To me, that's confusing. Computer science and coding is hard enough. It shouldn't be any more difficult than it has to be. So I'm going to change this one to X, this one to Y, so that it's the same order in my chat command as it is in the actual coordinates themselves. Okay. And now what we're going to do is do the same thing that we did before. We're going to drag our X over, put that there, and drag our Z there. Again, let me reiterate my warning. Do not teleport out of bounds. It's very tempting. You can try this in, your flat creative world. Do not teleport out of bounds. You spend more time sort of fixing it than fun you get out of doing it. Okay. So when we go to test this, what we're going to do is we're going to test something responsible. So we can do a, let's see. So we can do a jump 3, 10, and -5. Okay. That should move me 3 blocks to the east, 10 blocks in the air, and 5 blocks to the north. There we go. Almost ended up on a roof there, but okay. So that works correctly. Again, using arguments in the chat command and having those values stored as variables that you then use in the code, this is how we're going to get past the assessment. All right. All right, once you got your screenshot for your assignment, we can move on to the next thing. So again, we've got a big locked wall in our way. Let's make sure we hit completed and move on to the last NPC of the lesson. So last fall there was an issue with one of the updates. So Minecraft Education is based on Minecraft Bedrock. There's two main versions of Minecraft. That's Bedrock and Java. This is based off of Bedrock, and when they make changes to the game, sometimes it can impact what happens over here in the Minecraft Education game. There was an issue with the content ID for grass blocks, and so they have gone in and changed. This used to involve using grass blocks, and so they've gone in and changed to where what we're going to do is, maybe this hasn't been changed. Let's see. Yeah, so see, it says grass blocks, but they've updated these activities to count the number of steps that the agent takes. So it's the same computer science, the same coding, just a little bit different activity. So we're not going to be using grass blocks. Again, there's an issue with the content ID, and it doesn't recognize it. And so when we add them and break them, it doesn't keep the right count. So we're just moving the agent back and forth to keep track of those steps, okay? So again, making a new variable. Easy stuff. We're getting a lot of reps here, so we're going to name that steps. Add an on chat command, change it to back. From the agent drawer, drag out a move forward by 1, place it in the chat command, and change forward to back. From the variables drawer, drag out change item by 1 and place it in the on chat command. So basically what's happening here is we've brought out the change steps block instead of the set steps block. And what this is going to do, basically what this is saying is when we run chat command back, then we're going to run the first block, which is agent move back by 1. So the agent's going to move backwards by 1 block. And then the next instruction is to change the variable steps by 1. What that means is it's going to take whatever value is in steps and add 1 to it. The default, as we've said before, is 0. That's correct. So the default is 0. So steps, the first time we start out running this program, the steps is going to be set to 0. We run the chat command back. Agent will take a step back, and then we're going to add 1 to 0. 0 plus 1 is 1. And then we're going to have 1 saved into that variable steps. If we run it again, same thing. Agent will move back again, and then we're going to add 1 to steps, which then steps would be 1. 1 plus 1 is equal to 2, for example. So we're going to also drag out a say, and then we are going to put steps there. This is a nice way. It's a testing phase for computer scientists because you cannot just see what value is held in steps. So one of the things we do when we're testing code is to throw a say in the middle of the code just to check and see what the actual variable is, if it's holding the value that we think it should be, and if it isn't, there's a problem with the code. Okay, I don't have an agent yet. So what I want to do again is step into the wrestling ring, press C again, make sure I press the green button so that it's running, Agent should be in here somewhere. Yep, there we go. So I also want to be in the wrestling ring, just not in his way. So I'm going to stand over here to the side, open up my chat, type in back, which is the command. He's going to go back, and then I see 1, the number 1 pop up in the chat. Let's try it again. Number 2. So he started here, he went back, we got a number 1, he went back, we got a number 2. So every time he goes backwards, it's adding 1 to that variable steps and then putting whatever that variable steps is in the chat. Okay, so again, here's your screenshot for that activity 5. So you get credit for that. And then lastly, we're going to head over to activity 6. If the agent were to move forward given the current code, the variable steps stays the same. So if he goes back 2 steps and then goes forward 1 step, it still reads the number 2, even though he's only 1 block back from where he started. So what we want to do is remedy that situation. So we're going to bring out a new chat command. That's right. We can have multiple chat commands running at the same time. Change it to forward. Put an agent move forward block in there. We're going to drag out a change steps by 1 and then change it to -1. What this does is when we move forward, it's going to subtract 1 from whatever steps has saved as a variable. Going backwards adds 1 to steps. Going forward subtracts 1. I might have done it the other way around, but nonetheless, here we are going back. So the variable steps is holding the value of how many steps backwards is the agent from where they started. Going backwards adds 1 to steps. Going forward takes 1 away from steps. And then lastly, we're going to drag out that same say block and throw steps in it as well. Okay, so check our code. We've got back, we've got forward. Both are going to be running, and the computer's going to wait for us to type one or the other into the chat command. So we can have as many of those going as we want. All right, so let me do a reset area. Make sure our code's running. Okay, so there he is. Let's go back. Let's run that again. And let's run that again. So now he is 3 steps. He started here, so we're 1, 2, 3 steps back from where he started, and we see 3 there in the chat. Now let's change that to forward. And that should move him forward while also subtracting 1 from the number of steps. So we get 3 minus 1 is 2 in the chat. By the way, he's also still, he started there, 1, 2 back. So let's go forward again. Now our steps is only 1. Forward again. Steps is 0, which means he's exactly where he started. And then forward again. Steps is equal to -1 because he's not any further back from where he started. He actually went forward 1. Okay. So there's your code for activity 6 screenshot. You got a chat command for back, chat command for forward. And again, we're keeping track of steps. And as long as the code is running, steps is going to continue to hold that value. If you ever need to stop a program, you press C again and that stops it. Green to play, X to not. All right. So now that we've done 5 and 6, we're going to hit completed. Our wrestling ring turns green. Our locked door becomes unlocked. And then we move on to the most exciting part of lesson 2, variables, which is the challenge assessment. There are 2 parts to this one. It can be conceptually difficult. conceptually difficult. I will post another video explaining how to do these. I highly recommend that you make an effort to do it without watching that video first. Because if you can't grasp this concept, how to do challenge 1 and challenge 2, the rest of the course gets more difficult from here. Now, if you right click and talk to this NPC, import and export will take you to codingcredentials.com. This one takes you to codingcredentials.com. And so basically this is where you would, link up. And sometimes people have their grading done through codingcredentials.com. Some people do not do that. So you may or may not use this NPC. But the most important thing to grasp here is that once you talk to that NPC, their arrow goes away. This wrestling ring turns yellow. This one is not on yet. Do challenge 1 before you do challenge 2. The reason is you use challenge 1 as part of challenge 2. So in addressing a problem solving, the most important thing is to understand the process to solving a problem. Step number 1 is to understand or define the problem. So let's read the board. It says challenge 1, use MakeCode, yes, of course, to create code that responds to the chat command build wall. So we know we're going to be using a chat command, and we're going to change the name to build wall. Then it takes an argument. So we're going to be adding an argument to that chat command, which is how long the wall is, and then codes the agent to build a wall of that length. So what happens is when you step into the ring and press C, we no longer have the code builder that's filtered out for that particular activity. We have the whole actual code builder with all the code in it. So the first thing we want to do is click New Project, and then we're going to name this, again, just like we name our variables, we name our files something specific and meaningful, not vague and ambiguous. So I'm going to title this PITS Lesson 2 Assessment 1. Also important to note, if you're working on this and you have to leave class or you don't get finished, it's very important to come up here and save the project. Otherwise, your work will not get saved. All right. So you need to come up here and click Save Project before you leave for the day if you don't get done. Okay. So let's review real quick. We got a chat command. We're going to name that build wall. And then we're going to add an argument to that chat command, which ends up being how long the wall is. And then the agent's going to build that wall. So let me hop over into the flat world and sort of give you just an explanation, just to make sure that we're aware of what the problem is as it's defined. So it's very important to understand what this problem or what this assessment is asking for first before we start trying to drag out code. So if we type in build wall 2, then we should get a wall that is 2 blocks long. If we type in build wall 3, we should get a wall that is 3 blocks long. If we type in build wall 4, it should be 4 blocks long. And again, if you guessed it, build wall 5 should be 5 blocks long. Inside of the coding world, that 4 is about as long as you're going to be able to get. There's just not enough room in the area, the wrestling ring, to do any further than that. However, in this flat coding world, I should be able to type in build wall 487, and the agent build a wall that's 487 blocks long. So again, a chat command with an argument, and then the agent builds the wall that is that long, whatever you typed in. Think about it. Think about it. Think about it. Okay, let's hop back into the lesson world and look at challenge 2. Okay, once you're done with challenge 1 and have confirmed either with your instructor or with my follow-up assessment video that you got it right, okay, then what you want to do is head over to challenge 2. And in challenge 2, it says right here on the board to modify your code. That's why we have to do challenge 1 first. Modify your code to allow the player to also specify the height of the wall. And the agent will build a wall of a given length and height. So all we're really doing between challenge 1 and challenge 2 is adding the second argument, adding the second variable, which is height. So now we have length and height. So what does that look like? Let's hop back over into the creative world to find out. All right, so back in the creative world, these are the results that we should get from the challenge 2. If we type in the chat build wall 2, 2, the first 2 is length. The second number is the height. So remember challenge 1, we just had one number that was length. We've added for challenge 2 the second argument, the second variable, which is the height of the wall. So too long and too tall, that's too long and too tall. We should get this. 3 long and 2 tall for build wall is 1, 2, 3, and then 2 tall, 2 layers. Build wall 2, 3, that's 2 layers, that's 2 blocks long and 3 layers tall. And then lastly, build wall 3, 3 is 3 layers long, 3 layers tall. Again, given the constraints, the size constraints of the wrestling ring that we have in the lesson world, you're not going to be able to experiment with anything bigger than 3, 3. The agent runs out of room. He can only go so tall before he's technically out of the area. You can bring that same code over here into your creative world and experiment with it here as well. I use that same code to create this tower that goes all the way up to build height in the world, which is farther than we can see. So that code for build wall I use to build that tower behind me. So it will work for whatever number that you put it in if you code it correctly. So the last hint that I will give you before leaving you to work on lesson 2 challenges, assessment 1 and 2, is to think about how you would build in Minecraft if you were building. So let's create an algorithm. So go back to my video on algorithms and check that out. But if you were building, so what we would do is we would place, if you said, Mr. Pitts, build a wall that's 3 blocks long but also 3 blocks high. I'm going to build this block. I'm going to build this block, and I'm going to build this block, and then I'm going to turn around, and I'm going to do the same thing. This block, this block, this block, and then I'm going to turn around and build this block, this block, this block. So think about what you would need to do to make your agent do that building. Again, we can load our assessment code. One of the lines of code that we can use here is agent place on move, and then we turn that to on. And the way agent place on move on works is that anytime that is on and the agent moves, then the agent will leave a block in the block where he was just standing. We're going to make sure he has blocks. Okay, so he's got spruce, that's fine. So I'm going to type in build wall. He moved forward by 1. So again, the only thing that I have in the code is move forward by 1. I didn't use the agent place block, which is here. I just used the agent move block because we turned on place on move. So the only thing you have to be aware of is, do I want the agent to place a block in the place where he just was? So again, what would I want him to move forward by to build that wall? And then when we're ready to build the next layer, again, what we want to do is we want to code the agent to build 1 layer, get ready for the next layer, and then repeat. Build a layer, get ready for the next layer, repeat. Build a layer, get ready for the next layer, repeat. Okay, so once you've given that a shot, once you've gotten what you think is a good answer, head over and check out my lesson 2 assessment video, and that way you can sort of make sure and double check that you did that right and got all the information that you need on build wall challenge 1 and challenge 2. So again, once you're done with that, that's all of lesson 2. Variables, you're an actual computer scientist at this point. You know coding, you know variables, and then we're going to move on to lesson 3. So it gets real fun from here. So again, thanks for watching. Hope you learned a little something there about variables, and I'll see you in the next video there. Yo, bye, peace. You can leave already. Why are we still here? See you next time.